We like to believe we're working towards becoming our best selves. We read the books, we set the goals, we tell ourselves we're growing. But what most people are really doing isn't growth. It's polishing the mask. The parts they already approve of get attention. The rest stays hidden. Carl Jung warned that this is not wholeness. It's a performance. Because to be whole, you can't just add more light. You have to integrate all that you are. He called this process individuation, the lifelong work of uniting every part of yourself into a complete, authentic whole. And here's the truth most people don't want to face. Individuation will ask for everything you think you are before it gives you who you truly are. Most people believe they're already on the path to self-realization. They have careers, relationships, goals, and a version of themselves they present to the world. From the outside, it can look complete, even admirable. But Carl Jung understood that this is not the same as wholeness. It's not even close. What we call personal growth often amounts to reinforcing the parts of ourselves that are already acceptable. We develop skills that make us more successful. We cultivate traits that earn us approval. We amplify the aspects of our personality that fit comfortably within our social circles. And everything that doesn't fit, we suppress it. We push it into the background until we even forget it's there. This creates what Jung called the persona, the mask we wear to function in society. The persona isn't inherently bad. It's necessary. But it's not the whole story. Behind it lies everything we've hidden away. Not just our flaws and fears, but also the raw, unpolished parts of our potential. The illusion of wholeness happens when we mistake the mask for the person. We convince ourselves that the role we play is our true identity. And because the mask is easier to control, we cling to it. But there's a cost. Every part of ourselves we deny, ignore, or disown doesn't simply disappear. It remains, influencing our thoughts, our emotions, and our behavior from the shadows. It shapes our relationships. It limits our choices. It keeps us repeating the same patterns over and over, often without realizing why. This is why Jung saw individuation as the central task of life. Not self-improvement, not positive thinking, not becoming more of the good parts of yourself, but integrating everything. Individuation demands that you acknowledge the complexity of who you are. It asks you to bring together the light and the dark, the admirable and the shameful, the strengths and the vulnerabilities. Not to glorify them, but to unite them into a self that is real. That's the difference between looking whole and being whole. Looking whole is easy. Being whole requires a level of honesty and self-confrontation that most people will spend their lives avoiding. And that's why Jung's darkest truth still holds. Most will choose the comfort of the mask over the risk of meeting their true selves. Carl Jung knew that individuation always leads to a crossroads. One path is familiar, predictable, and safe. The other is uncertain, uncomfortable, and deeply personal. Most people will never take the second path. Why? Because it forces you to face what Jung called the shadow. The parts of yourself you've denied, rejected, or buried. Not just your flaws, but your guilt, your failures, your unspoken fears, and even your hidden strengths that threaten to disrupt the life you've built. The shadow isn't just bad traits. It's anything you've decided doesn't belong in your identity. For some, that means rage. For others, vulnerability. For many, it's ambition, desire, or the capacity to challenge authority. Facing these parts is not a comfortable self-help exercise. It is a direct confrontation with the version of you that exists beneath the mask. And it will fight to stay buried. This is why Jung observed, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. We distract ourselves. We keep busy. We curate images of our lives that make us look strong, happy, in control. We project our disowned qualities onto others, condemning in them what we cannot accept in ourselves. But avoidance comes at a cost. The shadow does not disappear because we ignore it. It acts without our awareness, shaping our relationships, sabotaging our goals, and repeating patterns we swear will break. The confrontation Jung spoke of is not just about accepting flaws. It's about reclaiming ownership of your entire inner world, the light and the dark. It's recognizing that the parts you've buried hold pieces of your potential, creativity, and freedom. But here's the paradox. To integrate these parts, you must first endure the discomfort of seeing them clearly. This can feel like betrayal, as if everything you believed about yourself is being dismantled. For the ego, it's a kind of death. And that's why most people step back. They would rather live a partial life than risk losing the identity they've spent years constructing. Yet Jung's work makes one thing clear. The parts of yourself you fear the most are often the exact ones you need to become whole. To become whole, you have to dismantle the identity you've spent your entire life building. For the ego, it feels like annihilation. Because the ego doesn't just protect you. It is the version of you that you think you are. The roles you play, the story you tell yourself about your strengths and weaknesses. The narrative you've polished over years to make sense of your place in the world. Individuation asks you to pull that structure apart. It's not a gentle process. It means questioning beliefs you've relied on since childhood. It means letting go of certain ambitions, identities, or relationships that were built on who you thought you were, but not who you really are. It means surrendering control over how others see you. In ancient traditions, this was symbolized as a death and rebirth. Shamanic initiations, mystery school rites, heroes' journeys, all contained this same core step. The destruction of the old self to make room for the true self. Modern psychology rarely uses such dramatic language, but Jung understood that the emotional and psychological impact is just as intense. When you begin to integrate your shadow, you destabilize the persona. The mask cracks, and the cracks feel like loss. You may grieve the you who seemed certain, even if that certainty was false. You may feel exposed without the defenses you once relied on. And you may face criticism or confusion from people who preferred the old, predictable version of you. This is why most people turn back. They mistake the discomfort for a sign that something's going wrong, when in reality, it's proof that something is shifting. Jung compared it to descending into the depths of the psyche, an underworld where you confront the unknown. If you stay there too long without guidance, you risk getting lost. But if you navigate it with awareness, you return with a kind of clarity and self-possession that nothing else can give you. Individuation feels like death to the ego. But to the self, the complete, integrated self, it's the beginning of real life. Jung believed that much of human suffering comes not from fate or bad luck, but from our refusal to know ourselves. When we avoid the confrontation, we avoid the transformation and pay for it with our vitality, creativity, and authenticity. This is why he said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." He warned that the parts of ourselves we refuse to face do not vanish. They go underground. They operate in the unconscious, shaping our lives in ways we can't see. This is why avoidance is so dangerous. You might think you're in control, but the decisions you make, the people you're drawn to, the conflicts you keep repeating, all of them are being influenced by the parts of you you've disowned. Unacknowledged anger turns into passive aggression. Denied vulnerability hardens into emotional distance. Buried fear drives constant overcompensation. And because these patterns live in the shadows, you can't fix them by changing your surface behavior. You can only break them by bringing them into the light, by integrating them. Avoidance also keeps life small. The more energy you spend hiding from yourself, the less you have to create, explore, and grow. You stay in relationships that no longer serve you because leaving would require confronting loneliness. You stay in careers that drain you because changing paths would force you to face uncertainty. The result is a life that is predictable, safe, and quietly suffocating. Avoidance gives the illusion of stability, but in reality, it's surrendering control to the very forces you fear. It's letting your shadow run the show from behind the curtain. And here's the hard truth. The cost of avoidance is not just personal. It ripples outward. Your relationships, your children, your community, they all feel the effects of a self that is incomplete. Individuation isn't just for you. It's for everyone who will encounter the real you when you finally become whole. Becoming whole sounds abstract, but Jung was clear. It's not about sitting in endless introspection or chasing an ideal version of yourself. It's about doing the hard, daily work of integration. That begins with awareness. You can't integrate what you can't see. Notice the reactions that feel automatic. The moments you overreact, shut down, or act out of proportion to the situation. These are signals that something from the shadow is surfacing. The next step is radical honesty. This means admitting, without justification, that these parts are yours. The envy, the pride, the need for control, the desire to be seen. None of them make you bad. They make you human. From there, individuation requires dialogue, not just with others, but with yourself. Jung used techniques like active imagination to bring unconscious material into awareness, allowing the hidden parts of the psyche to speak. You might use journaling, dream analysis, or creative expression as tools to do the same. It's also essential to bring the work into your relationships. Integration is not something that happens in isolation. It happens when the messy, conflicting, and unpolished parts of you meet the ones of someone else. Your closest relationships will be both the testing ground and the catalyst for this process. And here's what surprises most people. Becoming whole doesn't mean eliminating contradictions. It means learning to hold them without being torn apart. You can be strong and vulnerable, disciplined and playful, grounded and visionary. This balance is what makes a person unshakable. Not because they have no flaws, but because they are no longer at war with themselves. The real work of individuation is not about perfection, it's about ownership. Owning every part of yourself so fully that nothing and no one can use it against you. That is what Jung meant by wholeness. And while most will avoid it, those who choose it find something rare. A life that is not dictated by fear, pretense, or unconscious patterns, but lived from the center of who they truly are. Most people will spend their lives maintaining the mask. You don't have to. Individuation is uncomfortable, yes. But so is living as half of yourself. The difference is that one leads somewhere. So here's the question. Will you keep polishing the mask? Or will you start the work of becoming whole? If this resonated with you, subscribe and stay with us. Your real life begins the moment you stop running from yourself.